Hey there. I want to talk about universal basic income. Pope Francis endorsed the universal basic income just recently. Good for him. Really happy for him that he did that. It's an idea whose time has come. And you've heard about the UBI probably in the last several years, and especially in the last a year and a half, um, with Andrew Yang being his pet issue in the 2020 Democratic primaries. And if I would say there are three good ideas being circulated around as pet issues in the Democratic primaries that will make America a hell of a lot better, I would say universal basic income being proposed by Andrew Yang, an aggressive non-interventionist foreign policy, a pro-peace foreign policy, one that takes on the military-industrial complex, and one that will make the world safer and not antagonize radical Islamic jihadis in the Middle East is Tulsi Gabbard's foreign policy of non-interventionism to get the hell out of these wars in the Middle East. And of course, my homeboy, Bernie Sanders, with his single payer, universal style Medicare for all. If we were to do those three things in the United States, we would be better off. We would be a thriving social democracy. Well, Pope Francis recently endorsed the idea of universal basic income. And I am not surprised, really, um, because Pope Francis, and this is not, I mean, a lot of people get the idea that Pope Francis is the first progressive pope. And even previous popes that were a little more on the traditionalist side, people like Benedict XVI. I mean, just like Pope Francis, um, and I mean, oppose capital punishment. Acknowledge that there's global warming, that we have a climate crisis that we need to resolve. Um, Pro universal health care, pro worker rights, pro immigration, um, and these are issues of compassion and humanity. We might There might be some details that may be in nuances, but um, I would take Pope Francis on his worst day. I would embrace him on his worst day before I could ever embrace someone like John Hagee on his best. And if you don't know about John Hagee, he's a pastor of what was called Cornerstone Church in somewhere in Texas. He's one of those crazy TV preachers. And he is so reactionary, he makes Pat Robertson look like a mild mannered Unitarian minister. And what do I mean by that? This guy, John Hagee, who was John McCain's uh, spiritual advisor. Um, he, the guy supports the Bush doctrine war. If it was up to John Hagee, we would keep bombing the Middle East. He is so pro-war that he makes former national security advisor during the Trump administration and former UN ambassador John Bolton look like Noam Chomsky by comparison. This guy wants to bomb countries, and he favors a full-fledged military invasion of Iraq. I mean Iran. He wants to. He supported the Iraq War. Wants to invade Iran. Um, this guy John Hagee. I mean, you know, when it comes to issues like Israel, he loves all the shitty things that Israel do, but I bet you he wouldn't like good things that Israel do, like provide universal health care to their citizens, and Israel being the safest place for somebody to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or queer. Try being that way anywhere else in the region, it could get you the death penalty in those other countries that neighbors Israel. That part John Hagee hates, but John Hagee loves Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the worst prime minister Israel's ever had. He is the worst. I mean, the guy that John Hagee loves so much was urging George W. Bush to invade Iraq as a response to 9/11. If you want to know the continuity, how wrong someone like Benjamin Netanyahu is, and really weird enough, someone like John Hagee. Now, let me tell you, John Hagee's anti-Catholic. I don't mean to. For some reason I'm getting into John Hagee at the moment. He's anti-Catholic. He People like him made an idol out of Benjamin Netanyahu when he's addressed the Joint Chamber of Congress several years ago. But he's the same kind of person that would think that Pope Francis is the Antichrist or something like that. Anyway, I'm just making a comparison and contrast to. I mean, it's not just John Hagee; it's all these TV preachers who are so damn hateful. And I'm a Christian myself, and I don't mean to be judgmental, but just it's people like these TV preachers with their intolerance and their greed and their bigotry that puts my head to shame on being a Christian. I mean, I'm not ashamed to be a Christian, but what I'm saying is that they paint Christians in a bad light. But Pope Francis is right to support the idea of universal basic income. It's actually been proposed in the United States before. It was proposed in the early '70s. The Nixon administration was talking about a universal basic income even back then. But 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 the factions within each party made sure it was put to a stop. Yeah, on the Republican side, there were enough Republicans who were corporatists and extreme hyper capitalists to be opposed to the idea of a universal basic income. So they made damn sure that there was not going to be any universal basic income. They were so you got that on the congressional Republican side. On the congressional Democratic Party side, you have certain sections of the liberal left back then. Uh, People, like social workers and people like that, and in their case, they felt like their jobs would be on the line if everybody's given a check. And I think that universal basic income is a great alternative to quote unquote let them starve, which someone like John Hagee, as I said, made a sermon talking urging people to starve years ago. But anyway, on the liberal left, you have people who they're technically correct to support welfare state. I support the welfare state, um, but if you can have fewer people on welfare, if they can go to work and all you have to do is hand them a check, you know, to supplement their income while they work, even those people who are on welfare would rather do that than to be on public assistance. And the public assistance, as I said, this is and it will be an entitlement, a universal program. So a check. Um, Sometimes universal basic income is called Social Security for all, and I think it's a great idea. And the money that will, I mean, if we can't have universal health care, it will supplement the average Americans when it comes to medical inflations, which we have, which of course medical inflation can be resolved if we were to go and implement a Medicare for all program like what exists in Canada, or a UK style national health service. They exist, of course, in the UK. That those two approaches are way better than the current system that we have and how America was prior to the Affordable Care Act. I try not to refer to the Affordable Care Act as Obamacare because it was the Tea Party that came up with the term Obamacare. And while I'm not going to say every member of the Tea Party were racist, but I'm going to say that there were enough racism in within the Tea Party that I just made it a point to try not to refer to it as Obamacare. Sometimes it's used so often that in the attempt to try not to use the term in conversation, it'll accidentally come out. So, as far as I'm concerned, I like to refer to the Affordable Care Act as the Affordable Care Act, or as Romney Care, or Heritage Foundation Care, because folks, remember, the Affordable Care Act that was passed in 2010 under Obama um, was originally proposed by the Heritage Foundation. And I have said to people, anything being proposed by a neoconservative think tank by the Heritage Foundation is just good enough reason to be opposed to it. But as I said, the universal basic income would be so helpful because with all the people being laid off work right now, and all the people whose lives have been majorly disrupted by this coronavirus. I mean, they should be entitled to this. You know, I'm okay with what Bernie Sanders is proposing, $2,000 a month. Um, I'm okay with the original Andrew Yang plan of $1,000 a month. I'm okay either way. And what's so sad is that with the stimulus package that was supposed to combat the economic effects of COVID-19, there were congressional Democrats, people like Nancy Pelosi, and people like Chuck Schumer, what I like to refer to as a Republican light. Those people were the ones that put a stop to the whole idea of UBI, and I think I think that the reason they did it, they want to find they want to find a reason to make it so you can have political ammunition against Donald Trump. Donald Trump being Donald Trump is a good enough reason to have ammunition against him, politically speaking. Political uh political talking points against him. But that's what they want. They want campaign ammunition for these negative ads that are not going to work. I mean, you nominated Joe Biden, who is a doddering old fool, who is dementia ridden, who's an accused rapist. You'd rather have that than have Bernie Sanders because you're scared that they're going to call the Democrats socialists? I got news for you. If Bernie Sanders didn't run in 2016 and he didn't run this time, and y'all would have still been on this, and y'all still are on this centrist crap y'all been on since the 1990s, newsflash, Democrats, they're still going to call y'all socialists. And you can sit there and you can be ashamed of Bernie Sanders and all that. And look, I'm a Bernie bro, obviously. But even I have some complaints about Bernie Sanders, the way he's handled the 2020 campaign. He could have handled it a hell of a lot better. But of course, it all depends on who's working for him. And as I said before, there were some well-meaning people that told him to go the wrong way, thinking don't antagonize the establishment. And then there were some people that were working for him, that were undermining his campaign. I think it was kind of half and half. And so And I disagree with that with Bernie Sanders that people like myself, a social democrat like myself, being irresponsible for not wanting to vote for Joe Biden. Folks, Donald Trump will probably win this election in spite of this COVID crisis because the Democrats have dug a dug themselves in a grave, and the Americans are you know how Donald Trump is. During the debates, it's going people going to be watching these debates, and Biden's going to make a fool out of himself. He doesn't even have to have dementia to make a fool out of himself. Have you heard him speak all these years? And for those on my side of the fence, that says, well, you don't vote for Biden, you're going to be helping Trump get in. Folks, yeah, he's Donald Trump is a bigoted, wealthy man, but he'll be campaigning against another bigoted, wealthy man, and these both men's been accused of sexual assault. So I will contend to you that on election day, Americans going to lose the election because it'll either be Joe Biden, a bigoted, wealthy man who's an accused racist, or Donald Trump, who is also a bigoted, wealthy man and an accused rapist. And I am going all over the place right now because this is in the middle of the night, and I've just got a lot of things flowing in my mind. But we could have gotten UBI, and that's the sad part, folks. We could have gotten it instead of the one-time $1,200 check. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another check. I don't know. Maybe it'll be done right. But suffice to say that in the House, I'm a little bit disappointed, which is an understatement, with AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, Tulsi Gabbard, and all the other progressives that went along with the stimulus bill. And yes, AOC did. She claimed she didn't, but she did. I'm a little bit more than disappointed in the Senate with Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, and anybody else who are more on the progressive side of the equation too in that chamber for going along with this one, because we could have had a UBI, folks. It could have happened, yet it didn't. But hopefully, with Pope Francis urging this, people of faith can urge people in our communities and urge our elected officials to consider UBI. I'm sure Martin Luther King is looking down and with a smile, knowing that he's glad that people like Pope Francis is continuing the true message of Christianity, which is to be kind to one another, to find those in need and clothe them, and give them food and shelter, that sort of thing. That's a heck of a lot better message than the corporatism that we endured in the last 40 some years. And for those who are conservative and listening to this, I am not talking about a command economy like the former Soviet Union or places like China or North Korea or Cuba. I've said this over and over again. But this kind of capitalism, it's not even capitalism what we got, it's corporatism. Yeah, you can call it socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the rest of us. It's time to put that to a stop. And at the very, very least, it is more than time for a universal basic income. I want y'all to subscribe to this channel and feel free to comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Agitate for peace.